Okay, what up ladies and gents, it's your favorite Asian robot right here, and hopefully one day I'll be your favorite Diablo 4 content creator, yeah? Okay, so today what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna show you guys the late game version of the Sorcerer build, okay? Many of you have been asking about it for days and days, and don't worry, my Sorcerer is now past level 70, thoroughly tested, and I'm gonna deliver the late game build video to you that I've been using on stream. The end game video will come after my characters go past level 90, so okay, be aware of that. Why do I do this? Just to give you guys a little background. Okay, I do it so that things are thoroughly tested and that we really ensure that the build is playing at the highest possible levels at all times. Okay, forgive me, my voice is a little soft today. I am still recovering from illness, obviously, and you know, before we get into this, I just ask you guys, can you like and share this video? If you could, it'll really help out a smaller creator like me, all right? But without further ado, thank you for doing that. Let's get into this video. First, we'll go through a review of the skill description so that you guys can see what skills that I'm using and why they work the way they do, okay? So I'm just going to temporarily remove my cam and go through the skills, okay? The skills are pretty much the same as what you would have seen in the early and mid-game video. Basically, we haven't changed anything since we left mid-game. Frostbolt, Firebolt, 1 point each. That's it for your basic tree. Frostbolt is used as your basic attack. Why? Because it does frost damage and chills enemies. Okay, it also has an abnormally high lucky hit chance of, you know, after all the enhancements, it's got like 58% right now. That is what actually allows me to hit pretty hard with it and also to trigger passive skills such as Frigid Breeze, because cold damage, any cold damage against vulnerable enemies has a 28% chance to generate 15 mana. So used correctly, you can generate mana very quickly with Frostbolt, yeah? Okay, now Firebolt is used as your enchantment. As you can see. Why? Because it allows you to make the direct damage from skills apply additional burning damage. The burn damage is not what is important. What is important is the fact that when an enemy is burning, they take additional damage and give you additional reductions. For example, plus damage to burning enemies, damage reduction from enemies that are burning. These are absolutely crucial to really hitting the high numbers and also to protect yourself in the later stages of the game. Okay, so that's why we have that. So that's the review of these two skills. Ice Shards is still your core skill, okay? And of course we follow up with enhanced Ice Shards. Sorry, somebody's watching clothes, so I may choke a little bit while filming this video. And they're like literally, these people are doing laundry by putting the entire freaking softener bucket in. Oh god, I hate that. Anyway, destructive Ice Shards allows you to make enemies vulnerable, so this is very important. Okay, this whole chain is absolutely core. Makes the enemies vulnerable and allows you to dish out massive damage. Yeah. Devastation, 3 for extra maximum mana. Now, if you don't need this toward the later stages of the game, you can take 1 point off here and put it into Elemental Dominance, giving you even more damage when casting skills above 50 mana. You can play it by ear, adjust it as you need, okay? So I leave this option open to you. I've been playing with Devastation at 3 just because I've been lazy to put the point in. But if you have enough max mana increases from other sources, take this off, put it here, and you'll be absolutely good to go. All right, teleport is still being used. Why? Because 30% damage reduction and a very low cooldown. Okay, I use it to get around the dungeon as well as to get 30% reduction while also generating a barrier from protection. Yeah, so it's very useful. Glass Cannon maxed, obviously more damage is good. Elemental Attunement, you only need 1 since it can only trigger once every 10 seconds, and you will trigger this so easily. Yeah. Ice Armor, standard, just 1 point is enough because the cooldown is about 13 seconds, and later on you can make it, if you choose to put the aspect on, it can make you unstoppable, but so far I've been functioning without it and doing just fine, yeah. So I use a different aspect, but I may change that when the 8th August patch comes out. All right. Frost Nova for making enemies vulnerable. Still only 1 point in there. Why? Because it's got a cooldown of only 17 seconds now. Okay. Precision Magic, maxed. Align the Elements Protection, maxed, obviously. Yeah, you guys know this. Coming down here, Blizzard. I've got 3 points contributed by items. Okay. But Blizzard, you only need 1 point. Why? Because the most important thing about it is this. When Blizzard is active, your core skills cost 20% less mana. Very important. Okay. Icy Veil, just 1 point is enough because you want to unlock Snap Freeze. This one has a lot of value for me, but if you find that you're killing enemies super quickly and you don't need this, right, you can actually attempt to chuck points into Elemental Dominance, blah, 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 the usual, but you can also chuck points into, if you really, really want to, this one. Crippling Flames. Why? Your Pyromancy skills have a 5% chance to immobilize, and oh, wait, it says Pyromancy skills. Okay, don't need that anymore then. Sorry, I thought the lucky hit from burn damage, but we don't use any Pyromancy skills, so yeah, all you can do is max out Devouring Blaze instead. You can't really add anything else. So okay, never mind. You may as well just leave all the points in Snap Freeze. Because there's nothing else you can do here. But I don't get value out of this because I kill enemies so fast that they barely Snap Freeze anyway. But you may as well leave the points in here, yeah? Okay. Inner Flames. Devouring Blaze max for the additional critical strike damage. And your Permafrost maxed. Hoarfrost maxed. Frigid Breeze maxed. Icy Touch maxed. Why? Because you need your Frigid Breeze to give you back mana from cold damage, yeah? This pairs with your Avalanche skill that allows you to make free casts of Blizzard and Ice Shards. So good. So good, okay? You need these. You need all of this to ensure that you're always topped up with mana. People always ask me, how come your sorcerer never runs out of mana? This is the reason why, okay? Avalanche plus Frigid Breeze. Now, we're done with the skills, okay? I've reviewed the skills with you. You can see that nothing has changed from the mid-game build. I took a little extra time on this. Why? Because it's so important that you guys understand that we haven't changed anything. Oh, that's right. Sorry. One last thing before we move on. The second enchantment is still Ice Shards. Why? When an enemy is frozen, Ice Shards automatically fly toward them. This is how I use my defensive skill Frost Nova and still manage to damage enemies. Okay, I'll show you guys later again, but you've probably seen it on stream hundreds of times. I teleport in, Frost Nova, I don't touch anything else, everything dies. Yeah, this is how it's done. It's thanks to the second enchantment, which is important. Okay, now let's move on to Paragon properly. Okay, and I'll explain to you how my Paragon tree looks and why I chose what I did. Okay, let's remove my cam again. All right, when it comes to the Paragon, now that you guys have reviewed the skills, first things first, I went up the right-hand side, got my Elementalist. Why? Non-physical damage. It's important. Then I went up the center. First glyph, Exploit, obviously. Nobody would choose any other glyph. You know this, I know this. Let's not beat around the bush. Exploit is the choice. Exploit will ensure that you increase the vulnerable damage to targets. Okay, so it's very, very crucial. This additional vulnerable damage is a huge multiplier. Okay, don't sleep on it. Then I captured everything down the left-hand side for additional non-physical damage, as you can see. Okay, all these additional non-physical damage nodes have been captured. I did not bother with the right-hand side, nor did I bother with the bottom. Why? Because, realistically speaking, guys, okay, resistance is useless this season, so don't bother with it, okay? So I went up, grabbed the next board. Now, the next board is Frigid Fate. This is the first board you need to grab, and it is very important. Why do I say that? Because this board has vulnerable damage. Your favorite. You must grab all this. So I went up the right-hand side. Okay, I rotated so the glyph was like this. Okay, and then I went up and got Oppressive first. This is absolutely crucial. Yeah, you must have this. Then I went down the left-hand side, and I went and grabbed the damage reduction from Guarded. Okay, this is so that, because you're always making enemies vulnerable, this is essential for your late game survival, yeah? Okay. Weakness will also be something that you can grab along the way, which boosts your vulnerable damage. Absolutely excellent. And the second glyph you want to put in here is Enchanter, okay? Why Enchanter? Because Enchanter has a lot. Now, you'll notice that this is the third glyph I'm focusing on, okay? I'm just showing you what glyph slots I have. But the second glyph to focus on that I've actually been leveling up is Destruction. Destruction and Exploit are both level 15, whereas Enchanter is currently the third glyph that I'm leveling up, and I haven't focused on it yet. I've been capturing all the nodes for Destruction first. But once you get the chance, you'll be grabbing all these intelligence nodes for the Enchanter node, because this one increases your non-physical damage by a significant amount, thereby allowing you to multiply your damage quite nicely. So, I mean, in conjunction with your critical strikes and, of course, your vulnerable damage. So it's very important that you get your Enchanter glyph up and running as well. Though the fourth glyph, I haven't decided yet, but I'll let you guys know as we in the endgame build version. But basically, after checking both boards, and I'll explain the third board later, but Frigid Fate, I initially put the Destruction glyph here, all right? But later I swapped it to the Enchanter because the Enchanter gets better, like has way more intelligence nodes that you can grab to power it up all around this area. So yeah, that's why I'll be grabbing Chilling later on. I don't care about the cold resistance, but grabbing it would be important because of the 10 intelligence to further boost your Enchanter bonuses. Don't sleep on this. Really strong. Yeah? Okay, so after coming down this left-hand side here, I went up to Frigid Fate, okay, which is the legendary node. And it is essential because dealing cold damage to vulnerable enemies increases your lucky hit chance. This is how you further trigger your lucky hit effects, like your mana regeneration, all that kind of stuff. It's absolutely important. You gotta have this. Then, on top of that, you can further increase your lucky hit chance via this node, alright, which gives you even more cold resistance. Bada bing, bada boom, it's really nice. Basically, you're going to be totally immune to cold, alright, if resistances work, but they don't, so it doesn't matter. Okay, I grabbed this simply for the additional lucky hit chance. If later on in the game you find that you don't need the additional lucky hit chance, like you're totally doing fine on mana, you're never running out, then don't bother with this. You can actually take the points off later on if necessary, okay? But decide for yourself, you know, as you need to, okay? You don't have to worry about it too much. By having these lucky hit chance increases, your mana restoration improves a lot, okay? Then I came down the left-hand side again, and I got this board, Burning Instinct. Now, why do you want Burning Instinct? Not because of the legendary node. The legendary node is worthless, but this board has a lot of damage reduction from enemies that are burning, damage to burning enemies, okay, and damage to elites, which is really, really good. Because elites are going to be your biggest threat anyway. Trash mobs are going to die in like one shot, and so you don't really care about that. What you want is the damage to elites, damage to burning enemies, more damage to burning enemies, and of course, damage reduction from burning enemies. There's a lot of good stuff in this board for you. And the glyph socket here can be used to put in Destruction. It gets so many dexterity nodes and gets boosted really, really nicely. So this is very, very important. Now, one thing which you can do, okay, and I'm just going to show you, if you want, now I've been lazy to switch these around, but what you can actually do is put in the Exploit glyph here, okay, and put in the Destruction glyph here instead. Okay, this will weight your damage more toward vulnerable damage rather than critical strike damage. But because I critical strike so much and so often, I prefer it the opposite way around. But just so you know, you can freely change these as needed and see which one gives you your best value, whether it's vulnerable node, exploit, or whether it's the glyph's destruction node. Okay, so you choose for yourself. But yeah, either way, there's a lot of dexterity nodes here for you to grab. So destruction is in its element here. I find that it's very good to have it here. Okay, and that is it. What am I planning for my next step? Well, my next step is actually a fairly simple one. I'm going to finish off this board here. Once I finished off, I'm going to finish off grabbing all the intelligence nodes for Enchanter. Once that is done, I'm actually going to grab a fourth board here, but you guys will see this in the endgame video, all right? And this is what my board looks like right now at level 76. Okay? If you ever get confused about this, the planner link, which is in the description of this video, has all of this done up for you, so you can copy, follow along, and then, of course, watch the streams to see how it develops and how my sorcerer goes as we are on that journey toward 90. Okay? So that's it for my Paragon board as well. Basically, I am just grabbing all these nodes that would boost up my damage as much as possible. And then I'm going to try and boost it even further with a fourth board once Enchanter is finished. Yeah. So these 3 boards are my primary, and then Enchanter. And then after that, I'll get my glyph done. Then focus on the next board and trying to see which one gives me the best value. All right. Okay, that's it for Paragons. Now that we've covered all that, let's talk Malignant Hearts, gear aspects, gear stats, all the second half of this. Then, of course, there'll be a combat demonstration. So, if you guys are ready, let's take a look. First of all, Malignant Hearts. Oh, yes. Okay, first of all, Brutal Heart of Revenge is the Malignant Heart I'm using the most. Why? It's damage reduction. Get the best one you can, slam it in there, all right? Get one that has the highest possible armor, and of course, you want to try and get 20% incoming damage suppressed, with the highest value of damage being dealt back to enemies, okay? So, I'm still waiting for an even better one than this, but this is what I've got. Talrasha's Heart is their vicious heart of choice. Why? Get the best that you can and get the highest possible damage value, because you can get up to 48% extra multiplicative damage on this. Very useful. And then for the third Malignant Heart, obviously you will have the Barber Heart. It might take a while to find, but it's so worth it. The Barber Heart will basically give you all the bonuses you need. So make sure you grab that. It is super, super essential for you, okay? Barber Heart is what is causing enemies to explode, take constant crits. It's so strong. It's just so strong, and that hasn't changed since the mid-game build. Basically, whenever you hit an enemy, they will explode, and it's a guaranteed crit as well because of the way it works. Critical strikes and all subsequent damage within 2.8 seconds is absorbed by your target, and then the absorbed damage erupts onto the surrounding enemies. The eruption is a guaranteed crit. So the stored damage is also increased by 14% per second. So try to get as long a duration on it as possible so that when it does explode, it does just massive damage. Okay, because the stored damage is multiplied. Okay, great. Now that you understand the hearts, let's talk about gear aspects. What aspects do I use in this build, and why are they so important? Well, for starters, your most core aspect is the Piercing Cold aspect. This one allows your ice shards to pierce, but if you find that you don't need it later on because your Barber Heart takes care of AoE for you, you can actually swap this for even more damage, such as Edge Master, all this kind of thing. You've got those options. I've currently got Edge Masters in my gloves. I haven't, put on the best version of Edge Masters yet, but I will in future. Yeah? Okay, so that's what I've been doing. For your focus, I've used the Frozen Memories aspect. Why? It allows your Avalanche key passive to trigger one additional time. So basically, I get, the Avalanche key passive, if you recall from your abilities, gives you 1 free cast of Blizzard, Ice Shards, or Frozen Orb, right? Now you have 2 free casts, and also, don't forget, it empowers the damage done by 40%. Multiplicative, alright? So, by having 2 casts each time it triggers, I get a lot of free casts of Ice Shards with boosted damage, alright? And free casts of Blizzard with boosted damage. Now, it also allows you to double cast Blizzard so you can cover a wider area if you have to. I try not to avoid doing that unless I'm in a event where I know enemies are spawning from everywhere. I like to have 2 blizzards going so I can freeze them all, chill them all, that kind of thing, But yeah, it just gives you so much flexibility and adds to your build quite a bit. So make sure you grab this, okay? As far as I recall, it's a drop only though, so you're gonna have to farm it. But I mean, Hell Tides, Legendary, and the Nightmare Dungeons give you plenty of legendaries, so you should be able to find this no problem. Okay. Other aspects that I'm using, these are the core aspects, okay? Piercing Cold, Frozen Memories. These 2 are core and you must grab them. The other core aspect would be a conceited aspect. This is because you always have barriers with this build, and you will want to put the conceited aspect into your necklace. Okay, so make sure you do that. Conceited aspect is extremely strong and is pretty much the gold standard for any sorcerer. Okay, so that is another must-have. These 3 are your most core aspects. Other than that, the rest are enhancers. Okay, I like to have a control aspect because as soon as you freeze the boss, that's another multiplicative set of multiplicative damage there. Okay, sorry, as soon as you fill up the boss's meter, or as soon as you freeze an enemy or crowd control them, which is super easy to do, Okay, stunned, immobilized, or frozen enemies, which, you know, is very easy to do. They take multiplicative damage, which is excellent. Next is this one. I think this is called the Elementalist aspect, but it will allow core or mastery skills cast at or above 100 mana to gain increased critical strike chance, which is absolutely wonderful because a lot of the time your mana will fill up, and this is why you want to try and have as much mana as possible, because the more mana that you have, the easier it is to stay above 100 for this aspect. But if you don't find this very useful, or if you find that you're critting enough, right, what you can do is you can actually take off this aspect and chuck on something else instead, which is perfectly fine to do. You can experiment with this other aspect. Which is it? Storm Swell. I plan on using this after it's buffed on the 8th of August. So I'll be replacing the Elementalist aspect. All right, so I'll see how it goes with Storm Swell instead. Other aspects would just be Edge Masters. Edge Masters is a very common aspect and pretty good with this type of build. So I prefer to use it where I can. Yeah, these are some of the best aspects to have. Of course, defensive-wise, you want to have your Disobedience aspect as well. The Disobedience aspect allows you to gain armor whenever you deal any kind of damage. Yeah, so very useful since you get a lot of additional armor from your Malignant Hearts. You want to have your usual... Normally I use Might and Disobedience, but in this build I haven't actually put on an aspect of Might. There's another aspect which I have, which is called the... I believe it's the Ever-Living aspect. Ever-Living allows you to take 24% less damage from crowd-controlled or vulnerable enemies. Even if you just chill an enemy, you will take less damage from them. Against bosses, you can make them vulnerable very easily. So I actually really like this aspect because as soon as you put a blizzard on them, as soon as you put a blizzard on enemies, they are crowd controlled. They are chilled, so they are crowd controlled. So this works absolutely stunningly, and I really like using this because compared to the aspect of Might, which is a flat 20%, this one can go up to 25%, and it's very easy for the sorcerer, the Ice Sorcerer at least, to both crowd control and make enemies vulnerable. You can make everybody vulnerable just by teleporting in, freeze them all. Oh, they're all vulnerable. So you get a lot of damage reduction. So Ever-Living is a great choice in conjunction with the aspect of Disobedience. You can use aspect of Might in your helmet if you want to, but what I've actually been using is the Unwavering aspect because taking direct damage has a 5% chance to reset, well, up to 6% chance to reset the cooldown of one of your defensive skills. This one I find extremely useful because sometimes I just get a free reset of my stuff, and because I've got 3 defensive skills, it actually kind of pays. It actually kind of pays. So although it's a 5% chance, it triggers a lot more than you might think. This has been really helpful for me. Last but not least is Esu's Heirloom, which is the only unique that I'm actually actively using in this build. There are other uniques that you can use, like Raiment of the Infinite, things like that, but I found that they are not really core. They're more like optional things that you can use if you want to. But Esu's is a core unique, and you have to try and get it. Unfortunately, it is quite rare, and some people may not get one, because this one directly improves your critical strike chance and has movement speed, obviously, as a bonus. So try and get the best possible Esu's Heirloom that you can. All right. I'm still waiting for an ancestral version to drop for me, but, you know, we all know my luck with uniques. I get the ones that I never use. Yeah. That is it for all the aspects that is in the gear and the explanations for why I use them. Now, let's move on to gear stats, which I'm sure you guys are very keen on. Okay, stage by stage, I'm going to tell you the stats that I'm having in this gear, and I'll tell you what is the most important. For your necklace, you want to have mana cost reduction, okay? Try to max that out, and cooldown reduction. These two are the most important. Next, the third one you'll want to have, although it's very difficult to get, the third one you want to have, honestly, is going to be movement speed. Why? Because if you have mana cost reduction, cooldown reduction, and movement speed will not only make it faster for you to clear dungeons, but it will also directly benefit Esu's Heirloom, improving your critical strike chance. So these 3 are the most important, and the 4th should be anything that boosts your offensive skills. For example, Glass Cannon, Hoarfrost passive. I personally prefer Hoarfrost passive because it comes without any additional damage being taken, yeah? But in this particular case, this is the best amulet that I could find. Until I find one better, you know, this is it, all right? So I'm waiting for a god roll to drop, but that'll be a long time coming. I still haven't even upgraded my rings, yeah? For your rings, the key stats are critical strike chance, okay? It's probably better if I show you this. Critical strike chance, Vulnerable damage is another very important one. Critical strike damage is the third. And then last but not least, you want any sort of damage stat that can be triggered easily, like damage to burning enemies or cold frost damage, whatever. As long as you get all these 4 damage stats and critical strike chance maximized. However, this season, because of the way that Malignant Hearts work, it can be more difficult to find perfect rings because you have to match the Malignant slot as well as the stats of the rings. So take your time in finding your god rolls, okay? It's not as crucial, but just take note that, hey, because of the way it is, you've got room to grow, yeah? Okay, in terms of your armor stats, I'll keep it plain and simple. For your helmet, you will want to have cooldown reduction, maximum mana, and maximum life. In this particular case, I was only able to get a maximum mana of 11, but you will realistically want maximum mana totally maximized, and of course total armor. This has 4 of the perfect stats, but the rolls are, except for maximum life, are really, really low. So I'll be trying to search for an even better version of this, but ideally, max mana, cooldown reduction, max life, total armor. Very good choices here. For your chest piece, go for max life, total armor, damage reduction, and damage reduction to either close or distant. Try to get the opposite one on your pants. But in this particular case, I have a perfectly rolled chest, and all of the rolls are really, really good. They're almost maximized, so this is a really good one. The only way to get better would be to get an 800 item power item. Okay, for your gloves, I think everybody should know this by now, but maximum critical strike chance, maximum attack speed, maximum ranks of ice shards, and then the 4th can be anything. Okay, I would try to get critical strike damage with frost skills as your 4th stat, but of course, it is the most important is critical strike chance, attack speed, and ranks of ice shard. Ranks of ice shard needs to be maximized, okay? Very important. For your pants, same with the chest. Total maximum life, total armor if possible, damage reduction, and damage reduction either close or distant. In this case, I managed to roll damage reduction from enemies that are burning and damage reduction base. But the damage reduction roll was nearly max, so I chose not to go for a distant one. But I will try and get maximum life maxed, and of course, the ranks of Blizzard are not important, okay? So if I can get better pants, I will in future, but these are already 800 item power and really good stats, so I'm just waiting for something else to drop that has nearly perfect stats like this. Okay, for your boots, Esu's Heirloom, you don't need to go over those stats because they're standard. Well, otherwise, go for movement speed and mana cost reduction. These 2 would be the most crucial, yeah? And of course, ranks in Frost Nova if you can. For your wand, standard. Core skill damage, critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, and damage to crowd control to burning enemies, whichever one. I didn't manage to get one with vulnerable damage because you have to prioritize damage per second as well. Damage per second must be as high as possible, and then you must have good affixes. At the very least, you must have critical strike damage and core skill damage on it, okay? Or at least critical strike damage and vulnerable damage. I would prioritize critical strike damage and vulnerable damage, but take what you can get until you get the best one. I'm still searching for a good roll on this. For the focus, okay, your stats, most important, number 1, cooldown reduction. Second is critical strike chance. You must have these 2. The others you can hope for, I say hope for, mana cost reduction. Once again, this will just keep you spamming your spells, which is really, really good. And then anything that can boost damage. Like here, I have intelligence. Okay, it boosts damage. That's fine. But my critical strike chance is not perfect, although my cooldown reduction was. Cooldown reduction is of an even higher priority. So if you get max cooldown reduction, use that focus. And of course, prioritize damage per second as well. All right, but cooldown reduction is very, very important because without that, this whole build is sunk. Okay? You need cooldowns a lot on the sorcerer because ever since they nerfed how much cooldown reduction you can get, it's not exactly easy to roll the good stuff. So I'm just going to be honest about that. Okay. All right. That about covers it for the gear stats. In terms of the gems, just so you know, emeralds, which you can already see here, are important. Why? Critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. You make everybody vulnerable. So you've got really great multipliers here. And for your armor, of course, you want rubies. Why? Because rubies give you enhanced maximum life. Having 20% enhanced maximum life is pretty good because it keeps you alive in pretty bad situations. All right, that about covers it for gems. That covers it for gear stats. Guys, you now know how to build a sorcerer. We're going to go off to do the combat showcase very soon. But before that, it's time to thank everybody for their support. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Let me now thank all the people for their kind support. Here are our top supporters for August. Our top tipper is Big Chungus. All right. All right. Thank you, Zane. Our top tipper list goes for Jason Leaving and Mo Marizzle. All right. Top super chatter is also Big Chungus. And our top super chatter list goes to Marcus Carrillo, Juan San, Mike Cawthorn, Daryl Neo, Raised Reality, Mo Rizzle, I'm Not That Guy, and River Archer 124. Okay. Top channel membership gifters. Our top is Big Chungus, all right, with 50 gifted membership subs. Highest channel membership gifters are Mike Cawthorn, Newbie S92, and Boog Slugus. Thank you guys so much for all that support. Now, let's go off to the top channel members. Ba-ba-ba-bum. All right. Now, for all of you lovely channel members, here are our top people. Big Chungus at the OnlyFan level, number 1 right now. Death Dawning 982 at Plus Ultra. He's our longest Plus Ultra channel member and one of our longest channel members in general. We've got Jerry Fast, OG, Rogue Assassin, and Zach MG at Prestige. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. You guys are amazing. Okay, thank you to our honored robots, Juan San, Corey Ryu, Marcel, Kaishiwa, Bob John, Maxim Lotz, Devin Lashin, Mookie Mocha, Rena, Chase Taylor, Nathan Strong, Nightshade, Lady Neo 2, Joey Danze, Che D12, I'm Peep, Sayed Assad, Coda CMF, Kami SMH, Conrad C, Nate the Great, and Benjamin Savage. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to all of our cool and weird bots as well. And I'll see you guys in the Combat Showcase. Y'all have a good one. Like, share, and subscribe. All right. I want to see you on the next video. Okay, what up, ladies and gents? We are now in a tier 35 Nightmare Dungeon, Betrayer's Row. Okay, remember that in World Tier 4, you only need to kill enemies 10 levels above you, because that's the maximum XP offset. But of course, enemies here are 13 levels above me. Why? Because they're all going to die in like one shot anyway. So, how does this build work, and how do you kill everything with it? Well, for the most part, all you have to do is just teleport in, Frost Nova. Take note of your Ice Shards just automatically shooting things, and most things will just die. Yeah? The build itself is very simple to run. Usually I'll open with a Blizzard, maybe I'll teleport to get a barrier and also the damage reduction. When that eases off, I swap to my Ice Armor, yeah? And then I will either use this combo or the combo where I teleport and then Frost Nova. Okay, like so. Teleport, Frost Nova, everything dies. Okay, this is me playing it at a slow speed. Now, I tend to use Blizzard whenever it's a free cast, alright? Or if I know that I have a lot of enemies in a tightly packed location like that, like elites, I will rain Blizzard on them to chill them out. Get it? Chill them out. And then absolutely wipe them out as well. Alright, so this is the basic playstyle. This is how you use your skills in actual combat. Obviously, you do not need the whole 4 defensive skills thing. Like, 3 is more than enough. And, yeah, you can heal via the potions, so you don't really need the, fire armor. Okay? So, if you have an event going on, and I was hoping that was a Cursed Shrine so I could show you, what you'll do is you'll, more often than not, okay, cast a Blizzard. Why? Because you want the lower mana cost. Okay, you want the lower mana cost, and basically as long as your mana remains high, you've got the guaranteed crits, which will apply to your Ice Shards, even the free ones that I cast, since they are a core skill. Yeah, and the guaranteed crits will trigger the Barber Heart, obviously, which is really good. And that's basically how you dish out massive damage, because you're practically guaranteed crit. And this is just how you do it. You know, you just melt anything that comes your way. Alright? If I don't have a Blizzard going on, but I know it's an event, I'll just cast one. Over where I see the largest potential number of targets, I'll cast one to make sure that I don't lose out on the mana cost reduction from the Blizzard passive. Okay, and then once that's done, I just unleash. There you go. That was a nice 2 million damage explosion. Right there. Okay, so I hope that helps to showcase and explain the basic playstyle. The rest is honestly just applying this in all situations. So as you go through the game, constantly apply this technique and you'll clear dungeons with no trouble. Try to weave in a basic attack in between if you can. not so much for damage or, well, if you're using Aspect of Might, of course you want to weave in the basic attack for the damage reduction, but the basic attack, like I said, has a very high lucky hit chance of 58%, which enables you to trigger your lucky hit stuff quite often. More often than you might think. So that's why I use it, because it can sometimes help me to trigger a reset of my skills or just help me do some other insane stuff. It works really, really well. Basically, you can just rip through everything like so, yeah? But the primary thing that you need to focus on is, okay, freezing your enemies, maintaining your barriers. Don't be shy to use teleport, you know, just because it's on such a short cooldown. Abuse your teleport, constantly use it, and you will have no troubles. All right. So that is it. That is legit it for the sorcerer. I will show you guys a boss showcase if there is one here. All right. But for the time being, like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy everything that I've shown you today. Enjoy playing the sorcerer because I know I do. All right.